Hello. In this video, we're going to go ahead and look at function notation. We want to rewrite the following equations in function notation. Then find f of negative 2, f of 0, f of negative x, and f of x minus 1. Okay, so the first equation, or the equation that we're looking at here, is y equals negative x squared plus 4x plus 1. Notice that the y is completely by itself already, and that's the first step that we need. The next step is going to be to replace the y with f of x. So this is going to give us f of x is equal to negative x squared plus 4x plus 1. And that is the first part of the question. The last bit is to go ahead and find f of negative 2, f of 0, f of negative x, and f of x minus 1. So for the first two, we're going to go ahead and just look at this as one basic question here. So f of negative 2 means to replace all of the x values that you see here with this negative 2. And that's what we're going to do. So we're going to have a negative, because notice that this negative is not part of the base here. It's very important to remember that. You would only put the negative as part of the base if there was a parentheses around it. Anyway, we have a negative, and then whatever the x is, which is negative 2. So negative 2 all squared, and then plus 4 times negative 2, plus 1. And then just simplify the right-hand side. The left-hand side will say f of negative 2. The right-hand side, notice we need to square first. So negative 2 squared is positive 4, but we still have the negative out front that we haven't done anything with, and that gives us negative 4. And then plus 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. So we have minus 8 and then plus 1. And notice negative 4 minus 8 is negative 12. Negative 12 plus 1 is negative 11. So that gives me f of negative 2 is equal to negative 11. Excellent. Next, let's go ahead and look at f of 0. So I'll go ahead and put f of 0 in purple here. So let's look at f of 0, meaning replace the x's with 0 in the original question. So make that 0, and that 0. So we're going to get negative 0 squared plus 4 times 0 plus 1. And what's fantastic about this is that this term and this term, they just both become 0. And all we're left with is the constant term of 1. So that means that f of 0 is equal to 1. Awesome. Now, let's look at f of negative x. To use or to find f of negative x, I'm going to again go back to the original f of x here. And this time I'm going to replace all of the x values with this negative x. So that's going to give me negative and then negative x squared plus 4 times negative x plus 1. Awesome. And then again, just simplify it. But this time, notice that this negative x squared is going to become positive x squared, because this is a negative x times negative x. There's two negatives here. But there's another negative on the outside here, which tells me that this becomes negative x squared. For the second term, we have 4 times negative x. 4 times negative x is negative 4x. And the last bit is still plus 1. Awesome. So one way to ask yourself, how do you know if you have a negative x in here if it changes signs out front like this? If it's an even exponent, you keep the original sign. If it's an odd exponent, which is to the first power here, then you change the original sign. So keep, change. And then this is x to the 0 power, so you keep it. So f of negative x is equal to negative x squared minus 4x plus 1. Awesome. Next, let's look at this last one of f of x minus 1. So f of x minus 1, again, going back to the original function, we're going to replace this x, and this x with this entire x minus 1. So this is going to give me negative, and then parentheses, x minus 1 squared, and then plus 4 times parentheses x minus 1 plus 1. Awesome. Notice that we do need to distribute that 4 there, but before you do anything else, also make sure you square the binomial correctly. You can think of that as x minus 1 times x minus 1 if you prefer, but I prefer to use the fact that a plus b squared is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. And then simplify. So we still have the negative out front, and then in this big parentheses, I'm going to go ahead and put what x minus 1 all squared is. So I square the first one, so square the x gives us x squared, leave some space, and then plus square the 1 gives us 1. Now then, multiply these two together. X times negative 1 is negative x, and then double the coefficient makes that negative 2x. Excellent. Distribute the 4 gives us plus 4x minus 4, then plus 1 at the end. Notice that we still need to distribute this negative to all three terms there. So this is going to give us negative x squared plus 2x minus 1 plus 4x minus 4 plus 1. And now notice that, first of all, the positive, positive became negative, positive, negative. That's what happens when you distribute a negative. Every term within this parentheses changes sign. But be careful to not change these, the terms that are outside of that parentheses. And then just combine like terms. And that's going to give us negative x squared. 2x plus 4x is 6x. And then negative 1 minus 4 is negative 5, plus 1 is negative 4. So that means that f of x minus 1 is equal to negative x squared plus 6x minus 4. Awesome. Well, I believe that that is it for this particular video. I'm going to go ahead and end it here, and I will see you in the next one. Have fun.